Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only, Mexi here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Paper Mario, aka for those of you who live in Japan, Mario Story for the Nintendo 64. So, last time, not only did we somehow manage to able to fully conclude every aspect in terms of letter deliveries, but in addition to that, we also did manage to able to conclude every favor's task, all thanks to the forms of Koopa Koot. So overall, we actually did manage to collect some even more star pieces, and as a matter of fact, everything else will be come to expect, right? Well, it turns out about the fact that we are still technically not done with this process just yet, because today, for this video, is that we are still on the forms of the actual post-game content, at least for now anyway, and so much to the point, today, for this particular subject, is that not only we need to able to try to find the last 6 of those star pieces as far as I'm aware of. As you can tell from that particular footage alone, this is going to be the post-commentary for this video, because as far as I'm aware, as you can see, the first thing we need to able to come across into, there are missing badges that I somehow missed throughout the majority of the main adventure. Like, for example, we actually did manage to able to come across into ourselves the second Happy Flower badge, and by doing so is about the fact that in order able to get that particular badge, by the way, so you notice where there are 3 different trees during the forms of that particular beginning portion of the flower fields portion, and by doing so is about the fact that you need to smack the corresponding trees in a corresponding order. Like, for instance, though, you always have to hit the middle tree, and then the right tree, and then the left tree for last. Because otherwise, if you manage to do it successfully, then you should be able to actually guarantee to able to get yourselves the second Happy Flower badge. So, and as you can tell, that technically we are still not done with the forms of Amazing Daisy, by the way, because this is what really happens if you don't finish her off, and as a result, she did run away, and you don't get any star points, and in addition to coins as well, so that's what really happens if you don't manage to able to finish her off that way. So, yeah, that's why I classified that. So, anyway, now, in terms of the forms of the next badge I was going to be on about, oh, she did somehow come back again. Okay. No need to worry about her anymore, just because, like I said before, that we will definitely try to reach our maximum level up to level 27 by that time once we make our way to the final chapter in the game, which is of course chapter 8, to try to taking care of the forms of some tougher enemies, and in addition to the last few bosses as well, including the final boss as well. So hopefully though, that'll be the case. So anyway, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course there is the 12th of June today, in some cases in 2025 today. I don't think there's anything else I can probably say about the forms of anything else news related, I'm afraid, because like I said before, it's about the fact that this particular video alone is going to be post-commentary. So because of that though, yeah, as you can see, we've come across into ourselves the Flower Saver badge, and this is one of the first of the 2 Flower Saver badges that we somehow got, because we already know for a fact that there's also the second one, which technically we are still missing a couple of those star pieces though. So as a result for that matter though, is about the fact that, as you can see, in order able to get one of the first of the 2 Flower Saver badges, as you can tell, we do need to able to use the blue berry in order able to actually toss it into the well, and then once you're done with that, then you should able to actually get that particular badge no problem. So because of that, yeah, everything else checks out there. Well, apart from the fact that, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I'm pretty sure we are now technically down to, like, let's just say, the final 4 badges left. So as a result, the next thing we want to focus on, and that's what it appears to be, I will have to admit to that right away, the next segment we're about to be diving into is perhaps it's not only the most tedious process, but it's also, without a doubt, is my least favorite requirement in terms of trying to 100% everything in the game. And can you guess what that is? Well, as you can tell from our coin counter right there, that we've almost trying to reach ourselves for about 200 coins. So this means about the fact that it's time to do some coins grinding. So because of that, where'd you get a lot of coins exactly? Well, remember how about the fact that technically we've already did manage to able to sell some ingredients in the past? Well, it turns out that's not going to be that effective, because in order able to actually get a lot of coins in this game, well, it's now finally time to able to actually try to show you guys some mini games in the actual playroom, as you can see. Now, generally, we've already got the silver credit, and now with the Falls of the Gold credit, this means we can now able to actually access to not one, but two mini games we can able to play around with in the actual playroom. So, we'll start things off with the one on the left, so just in case we can able to actually show you guys of how these mini games plays out. So the first mini game out of them two, though, which appears to be the jump attack, where basically your goal is pretty simple. Basically, though, you need to able to actually have the option to go for 5-block option or 7-block option or the 9-block option, which means that you are able to actually get coins. But here's the thing, though. This minigame right here is incredibly luck-based, because not only do you have to go for about a few blocks at a time, but, as you can tell, for certain panels, you're able to actually come across into yourselves not only the 1 coin panel, which gives you just 1 coin, and there's also the 5 coin panel, and there's also the 5 times panel, which actually multiplies your coins. But, if you dare come across into Bowser at one point, you're essentially done. So this means about the fact that it's almost like a 50-50 chance when it comes to likely trying to accomplish this particular minigame. And holy cow, I was not even kidding. You know the reason why this particular video took so long in the others? This particular section. I spent about, I'm not joking when I'm saying this, I've almost spent about, well, let's just say 62 minutes in this whole entire process, if you could tell, because, like I said before, this minigame right here is incredibly luck-based, although there is actually a way you can able to actually try to strategize yourself. But believe me though, whenever I first got to this bit, specifically the original cartridge version of the game, you have no idea how many times I somehow got screwed over in this stupid minigame right there. And believe me, what I'm saying is about the fact that once we're done with this whole entire process right there, I will never touch this minigame ever again. Although it's entirely optional, but it's just about the fact that the reason why we came here in the first place is to try to grind as many of those coins as we could. Although there's also a way you can able to also grind coins with by trying to, keep on defeating, Amazing Daisies if you want to, but that's gonna be quite of a lengthy process, at least as far as we do know of. But let's just say for the time being, though, is about the fact that this is the only best option we can probably think about, despite it's incredibly luck-based, because that Bowser's face right there always gets on my nerves sometimes, which I know for a fact that, well, like I said before, it only took me for about 62 minutes to able to actually reach ourselves. Well, here's the thing though, my target for this particular point right there is to reach for about 900 plus coins, because that way, not only we can able to actually buy the final 2 badges in the actual badge shop, but in addition to that, we can also try to able to actually guarantee to get ourselves the next star piece from that particular RIP Cheeto, which, yeah, you probably get the idea what I was trying to on about for the sake of time, but it's just about the fact that, yeah, whenever I managed able to first got to this point, it just got me rage quit so many times, well, at least to be more specifically though, that thankfully though, if you're trying to able to go for a 5-block option or the 7-block option, that way you would able to make this process a bit quicker or essentially a lot more easier, but that doesn't excuse the fact that you will miraculously try to come across as that stupid Bowser's face card so many times, like right there, and as you can tell for the fact that I almost wasted for about so many coins, and whenever I'm almost bankrupted, then obviously I have no choice but to reset the game, and then obviously you have to able to do it that way. I mean, sure, no matter what though, thankfully though, with the forms of not only for the Wii U Virtual Console re-release version of the game, but in addition to nowadays with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, thankfully though, those 2 versions in particular does have save states if you do have trouble with the forms of that stupid minigame, whilst unlike me, well, to be more accurate though, that I somehow managed to still got myself the original cartridge version, but in addition to the Wii Virtual Console version, there are no save states, so we have no choice but able to go through that trial and error when it comes to likely trying to able to go through that little process. So because of that though, yeah, you can definitely see why that the entire Let's Play itself takes much longer than it needs to be. Like, I'm almost assuming, for that matter though, is about the fact that technically speaking though, I was incredibly surprised about the fact that did somehow made a mistake during the evolves in the past few videos back, that I did say for the fact that generally Paper Mario was supposed to be the third longest Let's Play we've ever done, but that's not the case, because technically, the longest Let's Plays we've ever done, which appears to be, well, not only Super Mario Odyssey, but in addition to Sonic Frontiers, and there's also Super Mario 3D All-Stars, just because obviously though, in addition to trying to tackle through 3 games in that particular compilation, but there's also the Luigi playthrough as well in Super Mario Galaxy, so I would be surprised about the fact that if the next compilation game will be on its way for Super Mario, specifically for the Nintendo Switch 2, at least as far as I'm aware of, but time will definitely tell though, just because we're still on June after all, so relatively speaking I was about the fact that time can definitely tell at this point, so either way. So as you can tell, we are literally so close towards the end, but I have no choice but to go for that particular block on slightly towards the left here, or just slightly to the left, right near to where the signpost is, and I've got very lucky, despite the fact that it's not exactly the perfect result, because as you can tell, if you do manage to able to complete the 9-block run, basically though, your coins will be multiplied after doing this whole entire process, and as you can tell on the actual footage alone, I have no choice but to quit the actual specific minigame and try to hit back into the actual safe block at the same time, so just in case I don't want to get myself, you know, bankrupted like every single time with a multitude of attempts to able to actually go for that particular 9-block mode. And generally speaking though, again, if you got a Bowser card, well, suffice to say, kiss your coins goodbye, because otherwise, if you run out, then you have no choice but you have to like reset your game and try that process over and over and over again. I mean, literally though, that is by far the most tedious part when it comes to grinding coins to me, because even then, unlike something related to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door for instance, thankfully though, specifically on the Switch remake, basically though is about the fact that once you defeat a certain boss, basically though you can get yourselves a clear bonus every time whenever you do manage to deal with the boss fight, in addition to the Pit of 100 Trials on the Switch remake, but relatively speaking, it was about the fact that because the actual cap, or the maximum cap you can able to get up to on the Thousand Year Door remake is, well, let's just say, 9,999 coins, whilst compared to the GameCube original, it's pretty much at 999 coins maximum. So, yeah, you can get the idea for that point. So, anyway, in terms of the forms of, let's just say, for instance, though, about the fact that there is a perfect score you can able to achieve during the evolves of this minigame anyway, which, in order to do that, though, is that you need to able to actually reach for about, let's just say, 475 coins, as far as I'm aware of, that basically, though, you have no choice but able to go for pure luck of God, at least as far as we do know about this process, because to do that though, that basically though you need to able to get 1 coin, 5 coins, 1 coin, 1 coin, 1 coin, 5 coins, 5 coins, and then 2 multipliers at the end, and that way, not only are you able to actually reach for about 475 coins, but also, once you do manage to complete the actual stage, or if you complete the actual minigame itself, then you would able to actually get yourselves the double the amount up to, well, let's just say, 950 coins, which is quite a lot, but unfortunately on my part, I have no good luck of doing this, because we have no choice but to go for this minigame for about 3 times, which as a result, yeah, I know, it's incredibly tedious for sure, especially because I'm almost there to exactly 900 coins, so that way we can able to spend on the final 2 badges on the badge shop. So as a result, yeah, you can get the idea about the fact that I do apologize about the fact I was being ranting at this point, especially because no wonder why I have no choice but to go for that option. So, but hey, it knows what it is, I guess. So anyway, the next thing I want to discuss upon, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, unfortunately though, one of those films in particular has officially been pushed back Well, in just literally only for about 2 months, thankfully, not the whole entire year itself. So as a result though, luckily the film itself is still going to be releasing until 2027, but it's now going to be pushed back until the 7th of May. And that particular film I was going to be on about was, you know, The Legend of Zelda live action movie. So because obviously that film was originally going to be released until by the end of March in 2027, so much to the point that it was originally scheduled to be released for March 26th of 2027, but according to the forms of that particular message, thanks to Nintendo of course, they did stated this. This is Miyamoto. For production reasons, we are changing the release date of the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda to May 7th of 2027. It will be some weeks later than the release timing we originally announced, and we will take the extra time to make the film as good as it can be. Thank you for your patience. So, I can possibly understand why they go for that decision, which, fair enough, because obviously though we don't want to make the actual film terrible enough as it is. I mean, time will definitely tell though, especially considering for the fact that we're still on 2025. But I'm still very curious to able to actually check that film out once the actual film actually releases until, you know, 2027, along the same lines as the films of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 as well. So yeah, you can get the idea for that. So, speaking of films though actually, we actually got ourselves some more updates in terms of the films of the highest grossing films of 2025 so far. And it may look like some of them are pretty much unchanged, apart from few exceptions. Like, for instance, Neo Zero 2 is still on top, and yeah, no surprise there. And a Minecraft movie is still on second place, but now, a Minecraft movie was now on to $951 million for its box office. So, I'm not entirely sure if it's possible, if that particular film will able to actually go across to, $1 billion by the end of its run, but we shall see what happens during at some point in the next couple of months' time, especially considering for the fact that it's almost getting very close to beat the Super Mario Bros. Movie in terms of the actual highest grossing films department when it comes to more specifically the box office results. So, I mean, we shall wait and see. Meanwhile, in third place right now, we actually have Lilo & Stitch live-action movie, which, no surprise there, especially considering for the fact that it still is doing, pretty well compared to the forms of how it does and how laughable Snow White is, but regardless of such though is about the fact that at least it's doing pretty well so far. And as far as I'm aware, it's currently now on to $772 million for its box office, so at least it's that. And for fourth place right now, we actually have Detective Chinatown 1900. So because of that, it was still on to $502 million for its box office. And on fifth place, we actually got Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which I'm genuinely surprised about that, especially considering for the fact that that's the most recent film at the time, and it looks like currently, that particular film is currently now on to $450 million for its box office, which is doing pretty well, especially considering for the fact that it did somehow manage able to recently trumps Captain America: Brave New World recently, during the forms of the actual box office results. So, yeah, I'm generally surprised and pleased at the same time, in regards to the forms that particular points worth noting for. So, oh, and by the way, something's worth noting for, as you can tell, I'm essentially done with that particular attack block minigame, or should I say, jump attack minigame, because that particular minigame just completely wasted my time. Although, thankfully though, we've now reached the actual target amount of those coins now, so at the very least, we have no choice but to now save the game now, so just in case I don't want to touch upon that godforsaken minigame ever again. So now we can able to actually buy the final 2 badges onto that particular shop right there, so just in case we can now able to actually start collecting the last batch of badges. So, logically though is about the fact that, as you can tell, we're now on to the final 2 badges left. So, and as far as we do know, for the fact that, well, we still need able to try to find some more star pieces needs to be collected, and in addition to that, I do know for a fact that the final badge in the game is going to be until for later, so just to ensure for the fact that we will able to actually try taking care of it though. So regardless of such though, is about the fact that thankfully though, we've got everything else sorted in regards of the forms of trying to utilize with coins with now. So because of that, I'm very grateful that's been over. But that's not to say we are technically not done with the minigames stuff just yet though, because as you probably would expect, there's another minigame. But I will admit to though right away, I'm not very good at that minigame either. Mainly because, well, as far as I'm aware, it does require the forms of fast reaction timing. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that I'll show this off later. So for now, let's go ahead and have a chat with this guy right here presumably for the final time, to able to actually not only get ourselves the mushroom of all things, but in addition to that, after a few more purchases for able to try to get ourselves the dried shroom, and despite the fact that I'm pretty much low on space onto my item storage, so we have no choice but to eat one of those dried shroom. So either way, thankfully we did manage to able to sort that out. So anyway, so there's yet another dried shroom, and as far as I'm aware, after that, we can able to actually guarantee to actually get ourselves the next star piece. So logically so, we can able to actually do just that. So there we go. So basically we are essentially now done with this guy now, because as far as I'm aware, if you keep on trying to spend a lot of coins for this guy, I'm pretty sure the actual recycles goes like, well, as far as I'm aware though, is about what I meant to say is that he obviously keeps on giving you dried shroom for about every single cycles for that purchase. So yeah, it may look like for the fact that we have no choice but to quit this. Although I just want to make sure about the fact I've got everything for this process, which thankfully that'll be the case. So anyway, back into what I was saying about the forms of the highest grossing films of 2025 discussion. Speaking of the films of Captain America Brave New World, obviously that film is currently now on to 6th place, and as a matter of fact, it's still on the films within $415 million for its box office. So, and 7th place goes to Thunderbolts, which apparently though the actual numbers wasn't nearly as high compared to the films of how it does it for both not only Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, but in addition to Lilo & Stitch live-action movie adaptation. So, yeah, I've got nothing else to say about this, I guess. 8th place goes to The Sinners, and alongside with that, there's also 9th place with the films of Final Destination Bloodlines, which, for Sinners though, is actually now on to $357 million for its box office. And as far as Final Destination Bloodlines, as far as I'm concerned, well, it did somehow got into $257 million for its box office. And 10th place goes to Snow White, of course, which at that point, that particular film is basically bombed. So, yeah, that particular film just deserves the actual box office bombed, of course. So, but I couldn't resist myself about the fact I've almost giggled almost, so I digress. So, as you can see, this is the forms of the Hammer Attack minigame, where basically your game is, your objective in this one is pretty simple. Basically though, we need to find 10 of those peach panels, and then once you've done so, well, keep that in mind though, you're in a time limit. So because of that, if you pretty much let the time run out, then you don't get any rewards. But as you can tell, I pretty much suck at this minigame, just because not only you have to be super fast about it, but also about the fact that, as far as I'm aware, if you accidentally manage to bring up the Bob-omb with you, obviously though you will get stunned for about a few seconds. So because of that, I don't think there's any point for me to actually try to win anything for that particular minigame, unlike the forms of how it does it on Jump Attack though. But that's just me, because regardless of such though, the casino stuff is basically done for good. So either way, because I just simply want to move on to the next point, especially considering for the fact I'm just so excited to able to actually diving into the final chapter in the game, which is of course chapter 8, so just so I'm sure for the fact that we can able to actually get the game finished before we move on to the next Let's Play for reals. So, anyhow, The next thing I want to point out, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, speaking of the Forms of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, relatively speaking, is that I believe that particular game will now able to actually introduce into ourselves the rifle system, which, as a matter of fact though, it's hard for me to explain about this particular subject though really, because I did see some more gameplay footage of the Forms of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds after all, and no matter what though, it's about the fact that unfortunately though, I couldn't able to actually hear the game audio for the time being, just because no matter what though, it's about the fact that we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next couple of months' time, especially considering for the fact that after all, we just literally for about 3 months away until the actual game actually launches onto multitude of systems, basically. So yeah, you can get the idea for this point. So as you can see, we immediately going back into Chapter 5 already, just because, like I said before, it's about the fact that this particular part is post-commentary, so this means we have to do a lot of editing stuff once again. But it's not going to be the final time we got able to sort out with a lot of editing stuff as far as I'm aware, just because no matter what though, it's about the fact that, as you can tell, we finally found the next 3 star pieces in Chapter 5, which is pretty self-explanatory kind of thing about it, all thanks to the forms of the I Spy badge that we've already equipped. Now, if you managed able to get yourself lost during the forms of this whole process when it comes to finding things, thankfully though, there's one of those NPCs I would definitely recommend you're able to interact with, and that's what appears to be this particular guy, that does manage to do some fortune telling, and basically though, you can able to actually spend some coins to able to actually know what option you want able to go for fortune on. The cheapest option is of course the star pieces, which generally cost about 5 coins, and then if you're trying to go for badges, it actually costs you 20 coins. And the most expensive one out of them all though, which appears to be the Super Block. Now generally speaking, I was about the fact that we've already got every single Super Blocks, but as far as badges as far as I'm concerned, don't worry, we'll try to find those. Well, to be more accurate though, we're trying to get one later, and then the other one once we make our way to the final chapter for sure, because I do know exactly where that is, but for the time being though, we'll go ahead and spend on the forms of some coins on star pieces. So because of that, pay attention to the actual description right there, because it may look like one of them is going to be taking place in Chapter 6, which I'm generally surprised that I somehow ignored that. And there's also going to be another one somewhere in Chapter 5, which no matter what though, clearly because I didn't pay attention to the forms of too much surroundings as much, so clearly I have no choice but to backtrack all over again, and hopefully we can able to try to find the last few, or should I say the final 2, star pieces, and then once we're done with this whole process, then suffice to say, well, we are essentially now going to be able to try to get onto the true final stretch of the entire Let's Play of Paper Mario for sure, because believe me, that again, the entire process took a bit while to able to actually go from like, place to place and all that stuff, so yeah, I guess it's that. Oh, and speaking of which though, remember why I said this to you yesterday? About the fact that yes, I've already got myself my glorious Shadow the Hedgehog game controller holder. Basically, essentially though, it's about the fact that what I tend to do is that I managed able to put my Nintendo Switch Pro controller onto Sonic the Hedgehog, and then all the while I recently did manage to put my Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller for Shadow, so just in case about the fact that both Hedgehogs managed to have a different controller, to be more specifically when it comes to both, you know, Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controllers, to able to actually represent there are some differences. Well, despite they are both very identical in terms of the forms of the button layout, but with some new additions, as you probably already expect. So anyway, and as you can tell, we've now made our way to the Chapter 5 for so many times as far as I'm aware. I think I actually lost count on that, to able to try to find the final star piece in the whole game. So this means we can now able to actually get the final badge from that particular Mallow exchange for the sake of the forms of the star pieces. So yeah, I guess everything else checks out there right now. So this means about the fact that at this point in time, that don't worry, we'll be back for more of the forms of some more side quest stuff for later on, to be more specifically with all that cooking stuff, because as far as I'm aware, that I don't think it's possible for me to able to actually go for that particular pig segment like that, because as far as I'm aware, the pig segment is going to be a time-consuming process. I will have to admit it though right away. But thankfully though, we've already did manage to able to cook one of the most coolest items in the game, which appears to be Jelly Ultra, right after the conclusion of, let's just say, Chapter 7, for instance. So because of that, though, because I just want to get that item out of the way, just before I start able to actually focusing on some other cooking stuff eventually at some point by next week or two. I mean, time will definitely tell, though, because as you can tell, yes, we somehow collected everything now. Well, except with the cooking stuff, of course, because again, that can wait. That can seriously can wait. So either way, so yeah, we somehow now collected every single star pieces, and in addition to that, we've only still down to for about the final 2 badges we need to obtain. But, of course, we'll get the last one until specifically the next video. Because as far as I'm aware, I can't believe by saying this, we're actually getting very close to the game right now. Or to be more accurate, though, we've almost at the epilogue in the actual game itself already. So, I mean, yeah, relatively speaking, I was about the fact I know it's incredibly long, and straight to the point, it's just about the fact I'm just seriously looking forward to able to finishing this game for you all, especially because, still, I did have a lot of fun with this game, though, still. I mean, despite it does have some issues, though, specifically that wasting our time with the actual casino mini-games like that. But regardless of such, though, there goes all of our star pieces now. So this means about the fact that we get ourselves a nice little message about the fact that, well, he now gathers every single star pieces now, meaning about the fact that he'll add it to the actual collection for himself. So, logically so, that we somehow done every single collectible items when it comes to finding things. Well, apart from some items we do need to cook, of course, but that'll be a discussion for a later time. So for now, let's head our way back to the Vaults of Star Haven at this point, and able to actually try to focusing on the next thing, which appears to be trying to get into the final chapter in the game, Chapter 8. So, yeah, that's as far as I can really say about this, I guess. I mean, I would have liked to be able to discuss more details about the forms of some other aspects in particular, but let's face it though, I'm just so looking forward to able to actually get into the final chapter in the game already, because, like I said before, I apologize this particular process took so long, especially thankfully though about the fact that essentially we still managed able to equip not only the bump attack equipped, but it's also with the first attack badge already equipped, and all that jazz with the spin attack and everything. So just in case, as you can tell, we can now able to skip the actual battles. At least for now, because as far as I'm aware, once we make our way to the actual chapter itself, I might able to actually try to change the badges again, so just in case we can able to actually show you guys some other enemies that we haven't come across into yet. So, yeah, that'll be our part of the plan. So either way, so for the time being though, let's go ahead and buy the Shooting Star, and in addition to Life Shroom as well. So just in case about the fact that the later battles can get a little bit tougher at this point, and hopefully we can able to actually guarantee to able to reach ourselves the final level up cap onto level 27, but that's not going to be until specifically until the next few parts later. So I just want to classify this right from the get-go. So anyway, so let's go and sort out some badges at this point. So I'm pretty sure those three, well, actually kind of think about it, those 4 jump badges are good to go, especially because those badges are super helpful indeed. And meanwhile, when it comes to forms of other badges though, specifically, of course, we will able to disable those attack badges like spin attack, first attack, and bump attack, so just in case we're not going to use those until specifically once we're able to try to find some ingredients for, you know, a lot of cooking and all that. So anyway, so thankfully we can now able to actually equip the power plus badges again, so just in case we can able to actually like increase our attack power again. So I mean, relatively speaking, though, it has been a while since we last done some battling and stuff like that, because, you know, we had to obviously taking care of the forms of some additional stuff, you know? But hopefully, though, once we make our way to the final chapter in the game, thankfully, though, we can able to actually do some even more battling, thankfully. So just to ensure for the fact that we can able to describe about, you know what I'm saying, with the forms of the amount of HP that certain enemies have got, and in addition to attack power and defense power especially. So anyway, alright, this is it folks, we've now approaching on to the final chapter already. So man, I can't believe this is happening. So anyway, so it may look like about the fact that once we go inside in this thing, then we meet again with the forms of the 7 star spirits, and once we're able to go onto this particular segment right there, I believe Eldstar is going to tell us something about the fact that yes indeed we have finally made it after all of that. A lot of areas to explore, and in addition to a lot of side quests or specifically post-game stuff here and there, which I apologize for that particular wait, Eldstar, because I just want to get these certain aspects out of the way. But as soon as we're able to actually make our way to the final chapter, well, we might able to actually gain our new power, which appears to be the Star Beam. Now, as far as I'm aware, the Star Beam will be useful, especially noticeable whenever we get to later on, and you see what I mean, if we get into the forms of next week, if possible. So because of that, yeah, I'm afraid to tell you for this point, guys, that's as far as I can try and able to say, in terms of the forms of today's discussion, because, again, I would have liked able to explain more, but it's just about the fact I just want to able to get these, little, optional stuff out of the way, so just in case we can able to actually finally get into the forms of the actual story progression. So I know it seems very lengthy with this whole process, but regardless of such though, like I said, I'm very, very appreciative about the fact that with all that, you know, a lot of waiting has been involved, but either way, I think that's as far as I can try to able to say about that, I guess. So anyway, so yeah, on to Bowser's Castle as we go. Or technically both Bowser's Castle and Princess Peach's Castle all merged together, so I guess that makes it pretty obvious for the sake of the forms of the environments we're about to be going into. So anyways, with that being said, folks, is that we get endings of this point right here. So join me next time for some more of Let's Play of Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64. Is that this is it. We are now going to be making our way to the final chapter in the game, which appears to be Chapter 8, which is going to take place in Bowser's Castle and Princess Peach's Castle as well. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.